I'm Mike Mortel. Several breakthrough ideas are changing the way nonprofits operate. We call these ideas Disruptive Forces. We recently published a report showing how some of these forces are driving a human services revolution. By incorporating these forces into your daily routine, you can help your organization become more effective and more strategic. Take the Children's Home, for example. It's using purposeful experimentation to achieve breakthrough results. It's part of a strategy they call Vision 2020.
So when I first started as CEO, I put 2 words out into our internal community that people said, "What?" And that was a national benchmark. In my very first vision for the organization, we will be a national benchmark. And people were like, what are you talking about? Why do you think that's possible?
We want to be the Children's Hospital equivalent, the social service equivalent to Children's Hospital. So our Vision 2020 is a plan that we put together using staff throughout the organization to define our strategy. The majority of families that are contacting us, their child's having a behavioral issue.
I would say the majority of the days of the week, I was getting calls from school to come and pick them up.
They've really exhausted a lot of their resources, a lot of their support systems, and they're coming to us because their child's behavior has become so out of control that they're not able to maintain themselves in what we like to call home, school, or community life.
To take their organization to the next level, the Children's Home developed Vision 2020 with 3 specific objectives.
One is build, measure, and market our superior performance.
We measure it by how many lives we touch, how many people we serve, and we measure it by budget size.
Our second strategy is really related to our culture, and it's transforming the organization with the right people in the right seats and the right function. So we're doing work with making sure our staff are living our values.
It takes more than even changing structures in an organization. You have to embed an intentional culture. But we want people from the very beginning to feel like, I love this place first.
And the last one is initiate new and expanded services. The Children's Home through the years has really taken pride in our innovation, but what we realized over the years is it's becoming harder and harder to innovate. We've kind of picked off the low-hanging fruit, and we've innovated in a couple different ways. One has been via request from our funders, and then the second one was really looking through and seeing what our consumers needed. So we opened up an example of that as a high school for students with autism.
I am the first graduate of the autism school.
The third way I think has been the hardest way, and that's been more of our breakthrough work. It's how do we create a culture here where we do constant innovation and really think about things that are not presented to us, but rather that we're initiating them after we've seen the needs in the community. We joke internally that we can't just ask people to innovate and expect that they'll do it, but what are the processes we have in place and what are the training we're providing for staff?
So about a dozen members from the Children's Home spent a few days away to learn about purposeful experimentation.
We had this opportunity to go to this place called the Eureka Ranch, and they do innovation engineering for international companies. We had a very nice connection to them, and they're in town, and so the executive team and then a number of other creative and key thought leaders within the organization were invited.
At the Eureka Ranch, the staff learned about a 5-step process to develop new programs. The first step is to mine for ideas.
New product lines, new program designs, just different ideas. And you record those ideas on these yellow cards called concept cards.
We had a good business planning process in place, but not idea generation. So when we got there and we started doing the work and learning their process, this is when we had this sort of like aha, like wait a minute, we do this and we know how to do this. We just haven't had the framework and the steps in place.
The second step is to strengthen the idea by overcoming its weaknesses.
You'll meet with a team and they're responsible for vetting the ideas. The first order of business when you get an idea is to see if it dies, to kind of try to kill it. And the way that we do that is by identifying what we call the death threats.
What could get in the way of this idea coming to fruition? You know, if we built it, would they come? Is there too much competition?
And if it makes it through, then we do what's called quick math, where you just take very rough numbers to kind of get a sense of, does this seem to be financially viable?
What are the revenues we're thinking we can get what are the expenses, salaries, program expenses, can we cover our costs?
And if it passes the quick math test, then we can begin looking at business planning.
We sort of flipped it around through the Eureka process, where the business plan was not until the end. So you went through this kind of fail fast, fail cheap.
The final step is to implement the plan.
So in our previous approach, we could only work on a couple of business plans at a time. This way, I think we have maybe 5 or 6 happening at one time.
The strategy development and deployment system that we have in place really is a system. So it's like we've got the backbone and the framework, and I think that's making a huge difference. And we're never succumbing to, well, let's just not do it this time, or, you know, what difference would it be if we just didn't audit ourselves one quarter? I mean, we've just been very disciplined, very disciplined.
I do think it's about seizing opportunities. Can they impact our kids so that they can have bigger, better, stronger lives going forward? And can we ensure that these kids are fully prepared for life and what goes beyond?
And it's been really exciting.